This Sunday's verse comes from chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. Because if you confess with your lips that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For one believes with the heart, and so is justified, and one confesses with the mouth, and so is saved. Knowing deep down inside that Jesus is Lord and believing in our hearts that God raised him from the dead is one thing. It's a whole different thing to say those things out loud. Why is it so hard for people to say out loud that Jesus is Lord? The biggest part is fear. People are scared of what might happen. People worry so much about what other people think of them. The mouth and the heart need to be on the same page. We believe things with our hearts, and our hearts meaning your entire being. There are people out there who give lip service to God, but their hearts aren't even remotely close to him. It's important to say what we mean and mean what we say, and that we are sincere with those words, and that we know those things in our hearts to be true. James 2:20 says faith without works is dead. And this also makes me think of the second part of Isaiah 1:5. The whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. Sometimes when sitting down and focusing on Sunday verses, I have brain farts and have a hard time thinking of what to say. So after being still for a few minutes, I decided that I should share some examples about myself regarding these verses. Earlier this year, I don't remember exactly when, I was talking with a coworker at work while we were doing something. We talked about hobbies, and I said that I read. He asked me what kind of books I read, and when I brought up that I read in the first place, I was thinking about my Bible. But I told him that I like to read a lot of fiction, though I hadn't read a single book other than the Bible for a long time. So I walked away, disappointed in myself, wondering why in the heck I said that and didn't just tell him the real truth. I didn't flat out deny God, but I didn't proclaim him either. I reminded myself a lot of Peter. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, but ended up being the rock that Jesus built his church on. So here's another example. I like to listen to K-Love, and for those of you that don't know, that's a Christian worship station. I listen to that 99% of the time these days, and I am willing to listen to other things, but I usually don't. Someone earlier this year, too, asked me what kind of music I listen to. I told this person I listen to country music. I really do enjoy country music, but again, that wasn't the whole truth. At that time, I was frustrated. What the heck was I afraid of? In the beginning of my walk with God, it was hard for me to talk about myself. I had a head and heart full of God, but it never came out of my mouth except in secret. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. We are told in Matthew 6:6, "Go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you." But that we should live our lives the way that Jesus has taught us to do. Even early on in my walk, I knew that I would never deny God, but at the time, I wouldn't say anything to glorify him either. But ever since those things happened to me, I've been much better about telling people the whole truth. If God comes up, I am no longer afraid to speak about him. I even get excited, especially if I'm speaking with someone who I didn't know is a believer. I asked for a certain day off of the week because I would like to attend church activities, including Bible study. I was never brave about asking for it in the past, but now I am the complete opposite. So when I saw that these verses were for this Sunday, I kind of giggled because I know that God has a sense of humor. I've spoken about it with someone a lot. I am a real-life example of what these verses talk about. Romans 10:11 even says, the scripture says, "No one who believes in him will be put to shame." Everybody goes through something like this at one point or another. When I make mistakes like the ones I made, I try to learn from them and try to avoid them in the future. There's always room for improvement, and every day is a new day. So at the times I was talking about earlier, I was also going through the book of Psalms. So I came across Psalm 27, and I would like to share that with you because it impacted me in a very positive way. Psalm 27, 1 through 14. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is a stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and foes, it is they who stumble and fall. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war arise against me, yet I will be confident. One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. For he will hide me in his shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will lift me high upon a rock.